Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're doing something a little bit different.
Yeah, you could definitely say that.
Usually when we crack open a book or dig into the research for you, we are looking for the how-to. You know the drill. How to be more productive.
Right.
How to be happier. How to optimize your morning routine or find that silver lining in the storm cloud. But today
we are taking a hard left turn into the dark.
Exactly. We are tackling a figure who is often described, and really not affectionately, as the grandfather of pessimism.
That is a title he earned. And frankly, he would probably wear it as a badge of honor.
We're talking about Arthur Schopenhauer, and I want to set the stage here for you because when I say pessimist, I think most people imagine a guy who's just a bit grumpy.
Like someone who just sees the glass as half empty.
Right, yeah. But Schopenhauer isn't that guy. Schopenhauer is the guy who looks at the glass, sees that it's cracked, realizes the water inside is probably stagnant.
And full of bacteria.
And then he asks the fundamental question of why we are even thirsty in the first place, when thirst is just a form of suffering.
That is a frighteningly accurate summary.
Thank you.
We are diving into his collection of essays known as Studies in Pessimism. And you're right, this isn't just, bad mood philosophy.
It's not a teenager listening to sad music in a dark room.
No, not at all. This is a rigorous, structural, metaphysical argument that existence itself is a mistake.
It's a heavy lift. But here is the hook that really got me and why I think you need to hear this, even if you are a die-hard optimist.
Especially if you're an optimist.
Yeah, fair point. Because Schopenhauer doesn't view the world as a classroom for our souls or a testing ground or a gift to be cherished.
He calls it a penal colony.
A penal colony, a penitentiary.
Exactly. He argues that if you look at life as a gift or a pleasure garden, the suffering we endure makes absolutely no sense.
It feels like a mistake.
Right. It feels like an injustice. We ask, why me? But if you flip the script, if you view life as a debt to be paid or a sentence to be served for the crime of being born.
Which is such an intense way to frame it.
It is. But if you do that, then suddenly everything fits. The suffering isn't a bug in the system. It is the system.
That is such a grim baseline. But I have to admit, as I was reading through these essays, specifically the ones on suffering, suicide, education, his psychology stuff, and his very controversial views on women.
We will definitely get to those.
We will. But reading it, I found myself strangely relaxed.
Really?
Yeah. It's like once you accept the absolute worst case scenario, you stop fighting it. There's a weird release in it.
That is the paradox of Schopenhauer. We spend so much energy trying to force the world to be happy, rational, and fair.
And when it isn't, we feel betrayed.
Exactly. By validating your suffering, by saying, yes, life is difficult and painful by design, he actually removes the anxiety of trying to be happy.
He validates the struggle.
He does.
So, our mission today is to unpack this dark, fascinating worldview. We're going to look at the architecture of suffering, why he thinks happiness is literally a biological illusion.
Why your dog is probably happier than you are.
Yes, the dog thing. And how viewing the world as a prison might actually make us kinder to one another.
We have a lot of ground to cover, and I will issue a fair warning up top for everyone listening. Some of this, especially regarding gender, is going to be very challenging to modern ears.
Definitely.
But our job in this deep dive is to impartially report exactly what is in the text, to understand the architecture of his thought, not necessarily to endorse it.
Right. We are the guides, not the censors. Let's jump straight into part one, the architecture of suffering.
Okay, let's do it.
Because he starts with a premise that completely flipped my understanding of how emotions work. I've always thought, happiness is good, pain is bad.
Positive and negative.
Simple, right.
It seems completely intuitive, but Schopenhauer argues we have the polarity totally wrong.
Backward, basically.
Yes. He says we treat happiness as the positive state, something we add to our lives.
Yeah.
And pain as the negative, something that detracts from it.
Right.
But he says, look closer. Pain is the positive element.
And we should clarify, by positive, he doesn't mean thumbs up or good vibes.
No. He means positive in the technical, philosophical sense. It is there. It has substance. It asserts itself.
Right, like it demands your attention.
Precisely. Pain, lack, effort, struggle. These things make themselves felt immediately.
Yeah.
You don't have to try to feel a toothache.
Or hunger.
Right. You don't have to concentrate to feel hunger. It announces itself.
Yeah.
It completely dominates your reality.
And happiness.
He argues happiness is merely negative. It is simply the absence of pain.
This took me a minute to wrap my head around, but then he used the health analogy in the text, and it just clicked for me.
It's the best way to understand it. Think about your body right now. Assuming you aren't currently ill, you might have a perfectly functioning liver, healthy lungs, strong digestion. Your blood is pumping perfectly.
Yeah.
Do you feel them? Do you walk around vibrating with the joy of your liver working?
No. I don't feel my liver at all. In fact, if I feel my liver, that's usually a really bad sign.
Exactly. You are completely unconscious of the parts of you that are working well. Health is invisible to us. It is just the baseline.
But the second you get a tiny stone in your shoe,
Or a little toothache, boom, that pain becomes the only thing in your universe.
the health disappears and the pain asserts itself.
The pain is the protagonist of the story. Health is just the background.
So his argument is that we only notice things when they go wrong. When they go right, we just feel neutral.
We feel relief, and relief implies that there was pain beforehand.
Oh, wow.
He extends this to all desire. Think about it. What is a desire? You want a new car. Why?
Because I'm unhappy with my current one.
Because you are dissatisfied, or you feel less than your neighbor. That dissatisfaction is a form of pain. It's a lack.
So the want itself is pain.
Yes. You work, you save, you stress. There's more pain. Finally, you buy the car.
And I feel great.
Yeah.
For a bit.
For how long? A day? A week? The feeling great is just the removal of the wanting.
The removal of the pain.
Exactly. Once the want is gone, the pleasure evaporates, and you return to a neutral state, until the next desire starts hurting you.
We think we are chasing happiness, but we're really just chasing the temporary cessation of pain.
We are just trying to stop the hurting.
That is depressing, but hard to argue with.
He backs it up with a really visceral analogy about animals to prove that pain is stronger than pleasure. The eating analogy.
Yes, this part, where he tries to mathematically prove that the world is bankrupt.
He says, compare the feelings of an animal who is eating to the feelings of the animal who is being eaten.
Yikes. That paints picture.
It's brutal. But ask yourself, is the pleasure of the lion chomping down on the gazelle equal to the terror and agony of the gazelle being ripped apart?
Does the lion's satisfaction balance out the gazelle's suffering?
Right. Does it balance?
No way. The pain is infinitely more intense. The lion just gets a meal. The gazelle loses everything in the most excruciating fashion possible.
Therefore, Schopenhauer argues, the ledger of the world is unbalanced.
The math doesn't work.
Right. The suffering is intense, prolonged, and positive. The pleasure is fleeting and negative. It's just the temporary end of hunger for the lion.
So if you sum up all the sensation in the world, the pain column is always going to be miles longer than the pleasure column.
Always. Which leads to his theory of the pendulum.
And I think this is the part of the text that hit closest to home for me in the modern world. He says, our lives are just swinging back and forth between two specific states.
Need and boredom. Those are the twin poles of human existence.
Walk us through the swing, because I feel like I live on this pendulum every single week.
Okay. So we start in a state of need. This is the default setting of what he calls the will.
The will, we'll talk more about that later, but basically our drive to exist.
Right. We are hungry, we are cold, or to be more modern, we are lonely. We want status. We want that promotion. We want to buy that house.
And this need is painful.
It is. It creates anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
It drives us to action. We struggle, we fight, we work late nights. That is the swing towards satisfaction.
And then we get it. We achieve the goal, we eat the meal, we buy the house.
And the moment we do, the pain of need vanishes. But it isn't replaced by permanent joy.
It's replaced by boredom.
Exactly. The object we desired loses its shine. We possess it, so we no longer want it. A terrible emptiness sets in.
Schopenhauer thinks boredom is actually a form of suffering, right?
Oh, absolutely. He thinks boredom is suffering so acute that we will do almost anything to escape it.
It's the Sunday scaries. It's that feeling when you have nothing to do, and instead of relaxing, you feel this creeping existential dread.
Boredom is the will having nothing to feed on, so it starts eating itself. So to escape the boredom.
We manufacture a new need. We decide we need a kitchen renovation, or a new partner, or a different job.
Or we pick a fight on social media just to feel something.
Oh, man. Yeah, and the pendulum swings back to pain.
He says, we are like a man running downhill. We have to keep running just to stay upright. If we stop, we fall.
We are either chasing something, which is pain, or realizing that catching it didn't fix us, which is boredom.
It's the hedonic treadmill written in the 1850s.
It really is. And he takes it a step further with the butcher analogy. He says that while we are running this treadmill, swinging between boredom and pain, we are totally oblivious to the actual dangers around us.
We are lambs in a field.
Lambs in a field.
He says we are like lambs in a field, disporting themselves under the eye of the butcher, who chooses out first one and then another for his prey.
That is such a horror movie image.
It is meant to be. The butcher is fate or nature.
Yeah.
We are grazing, laughing, worrying about our little boredoms, completely ignoring that cancer, poverty, madness, or a car accident is standing right next to us, just waiting to point a finger.
Schopenhauer's point is that our sense of safety is a delusion.
We are already on the chopping block. We just don't know when the chop is coming.
And strangely, he uses this to argue in favor of work, like hard grinding work. He thinks we actually need the struggle.
Yes, the concept of ballast. This is a great, really counterintuitive point. We often fantasize about a life where all our needs are met instantly. A utopia.
The land of milk and honey. We think if I won the lottery, I'd be happy forever.
Schopenhauer says, be careful what you wish for. He argues that if every desire were instantly gratified, if you thought of a turkey dinner and it appeared, if you wanted love and got it instantly, the human race would go insane.
Insane, just from getting what we want.
We would die of boredom, or we would start murdering each other just to create some drama, some conflict.
Because we need resistance.
We need weight. He compares life to a ship. A ship without ballast-heavy weights in the hull will capsize in the ocean.
Because it's too light. It's unstable.
He says work, worry, trouble, and struggle are the ballast that keeps the ship of life upright. We are built to struggle.
We aren't built for paradise.
No. If you gave humans paradise, they'd smash it just to have something to fix.
So we are miserable when we struggle, but we'd be crazy if we didn't.
That is the Schopenhauer trap. There is no winning. There is only choosing your form of suffering.
Which leads nicely into the vanity of existence. Because if the content of our life is suffering, the structure of our lifetime itself seems designed to mock us.
He is obsessed with the fleeting nature of the present. He argues that the present moment is the only thing that is real.
Right.
The past is a dream, the future is a fantasy, but the present, it vanishes the second it arrives.
Yeah.
Every moment you live is instantly devoured by the past.
He says we are constantly turning is into was. It's like we are shoveling coal into a furnace that burns it instantly.
It's a conveyor belt into the void. And because of this, he argues that looking for lasting happiness is like trying to hold water in a sieve. You just can't grasp it.
This brings up his microscope analogy, which is about perspective and how we delude ourselves. I really like this one.
Right, the distance thing. He says life is like a drop of water full of infusoria little microscopic organisms, seen through a microscope. When you look close up, these little creatures are fighting, struggling, killing each other, racing around. It looks like a tragedy. It looks hugely important.
That's us dealing with our daily drama. That's me worrying about my email inbox or a weird text message.
Exactly. But if you pull back, if you look at that drop of water from across the room,
You can't even see it.
or if you look at human history from the perspective of 1,000 years, it's a joke. It's a comedy. All that bustling and fighting for absolutely nothing, it vanishes in a blink.
Viewed closely, life is a tragedy. Viewed from a distance, it is a farce.
That's the core of his pessimism right there.
This brings us to part 2, the curse of intellect. Because you'd think, okay, life is a trap, the pendulum swings, whatever, but at least we are smart enough to realize it. That must be an advantage.
You would think so.
But Schopenhauer says, actually, no. Being smart makes it way worse.
He explicitly argues that animals are happier, or at least less miserable, than humans. And the culprit is, again, our relationship with time.
The animal lives in the present.
Entirely. Think about a dog. A dog feels hunger when it is hungry. It feels pain when you accidentally step on its tail.
Yeah.
But the moment the hunger is gone, or the pain stops, the dog returns to a state of complete placidity. It isn't laying on the rug worrying about whether it's a good boy or not.
It isn't replaying the time it barked at the wrong person 3 years ago.
It's not worrying about the vet appointment next week.
Exactly. But humans, we are cursed with foresight and memory.
The twin curses.
We suffer from things that happened 10 years ago, replaying embarrassments or failures. And worse, we suffer from things that haven't even happened yet.
The lens of fear. We use our giant brains to simulate every possible disaster. We worry about losing our jobs, about getting sick, about dying, about our retirement accounts.
Schopenhauer says this acts like a magnifying glass.
It does. The animal only feels the whip when it actually strikes the skin. The human feels the whip 1,000 times in their mind before it ever touches them.
So anxiety is basically the tax we pay for intelligence.
Yes. And this explains why he thinks we have more needs than animals do. An animal needs food and shelter. Simple.
But because of our intellect, we invent artificial needs.
Luxury, honor, titles, what the neighbors think, legacy. These are phantom needs. They don't actually exist in nature.
But when we don't get them, we feel real, actual pain.
So the smarter you are, the more surface area you have for suffering to hit you. He says, in much wisdom is much grief. The genius suffers most of all because they see the trap most clearly.
He has this really tender moment in the text, which is rare for him, where he talks about why we love pets. It's the pet paradox.
It makes perfect sense in his framework. We love looking at animals, cats, dogs, even cows in a field, because they are the present moment personified.
When we are with them, we get a sort of contact high.
Exactly. Their lack of anxiety calms our exhausted, overthinking minds. They are a window into a world without foresight. We look at a sleeping cat and we feel a pang of envy.
Because that cat is completely here and we are almost never here.
But then, typically for Schopenhauer, he gets angry. He starts talking about how we treat these animals.
Right, this is where his morality kicks in.
Schopenhauer believes that all living things are connected by the same will to live. So when he sees a human being cruel to an animal, he sees it as a profound crime.
He specifically rails against chaining dogs or caging birds. The birdcage thing really set him off.
He says that for an animal who has no intellectual life, physical movement is their only joy. It is their entire existence.
So to take a bird whose whole nature is to fly and lock it in a cubic foot of wire.
He calls it monstrous. He says the bird doesn't sing for pleasure, it cries for liberty. It's a very modern stance on animal rights coming from a 19th century philosopher.
Okay, so life is painful, happiness is an illusion, and being smart just makes you worry more. This brings us to the darkest part of the deep dive. Part 3. We have to talk about the exit door, Schopenhauer's defense of suicide.
This is a delicate topic, obviously, but crucial to understanding his entire philosophy. We need to be clear. Schopenhauer is analyzing this logically, not emotionally. He argues that suicide is not a crime.
Right, and he spends a lot of time refuting the religious arguments.
He does. He looks at the Judeo-Christian tradition and says, show me the page. He argues there is no explicit biblical prohibition against it.
He also looks at the cowardice argument, the idea that killing yourself is the easy way out.
And he calls it an absurd insult. He says you can't call someone a coward for doing something most people are too terrified to do.
Right. He says the right to one's own person and life is the most fundamental right of all. He points to the Stoics, the Romans, the Hindus.
Cultures that viewed voluntary death as a noble way to exit when the house began to smoke, as they put it. If life is a party that has stopped being fun, why are you forced to stay?
But, and this is a massive but, he doesn't actually recommend it. And his reason is fascinating. It's not a moral reason, it's metaphysical.
This is the twist. And you have to understand his concept of the will. Schopenhauer believes the root of all existence is the will to live.
This blind driving energy.
Yes, that makes us want to survive, eat, and reproduce. He thinks the goal of a wise person is to deny the will, to become an ascetic, to stop wanting, to achieve a state of desirelessness.
So nirvana, basically.
Very close to it. He was heavily influenced by Eastern philosophy. Now here's the problem with suicide. Schopenhauer argues that suicide is actually an assertion of the will.
Wait, how? You're killing the will by killing yourself?
No, you're killing the body.
Yeah.
But why? Because you are in pain. And why are you in pain? Because you want a better life than the one you have.
Oh, I see.
The person who commits suicide doesn't want to stop living. They want to stop suffering. They are still trapped by desire. They are furious that life isn't giving them what they want.
So philosophically, Schopenhauer views it as a false release?
Exactly. You are smashing the radio because you don't like the song, but the broadcast signal, the will, is still there.
That is deep. It ties into his whole view of death and immortality. In the text, there's that dialogue between Thrasymachus and Philolaethes.
A classic Socratic-style dialogue. Thrasymachus is the normal guy asking, "What happens to me, John Smith, after I die? Be precise."
And Philolaethes, the philosopher, says, you become all and nothing.
Which naturally frustrates the normal guy.
Of course. Thrasymachus wants to know if he'll keep his memories. Will he recognize his friends?
But Philalethes explains, you as an individual, your ego, your memories, your personality, that is just a temporary phenomenon. It's like a wave on the ocean. When the wave crashes, the form of the wave is gone. That's the nothing.
But the water remains?
The water remains. The will that drove you constitutes the universe. So you return to the all. He uses the dream argument to comfort us about the nothing part.
Where were you before you were born?
Exactly. He asked, did it bother you that you didn't exist for the billions of years before your birth? Were you miserable?
No, it was just a blank.
He argues that the time after death is exactly the same. If you aren't afraid of the time before birth, you shouldn't be afraid of the time after death. It's just a return to the state of dreamless sleep.
I think that's the most comforting part of his work. The idea that the I that is terrified of dying is just an illusion anyway.
He wants us to realize that we are just vessels for this cosmic force. The vessel breaks, the force continues.
All right, let's pivot from the cosmic to the social for part 4. Because Schopenhauer wasn't just a mystic. He was a grumpy guy living in an apartment in Frankfurt dealing with annoying neighbors.
Very true.
And he has some very sharp observations about human behavior. We have to start with the porcupines.
The parable of the porcupines. It is possibly his most famous metaphor.
Set the scene for us.
It's a cold winter day. You have a group of porcupines. They are freezing to death. So naturally, the instinct is to huddle together to share body warmth.
But they have quills.
Right. So the closer they get, the more they stab each other. The pain becomes unbearable, so they pull apart.
But then they start freezing again.
So they move back together. They're caught in this cycle. Freeze or bleed. Freeze or bleed.
It is the perfect description of human intimacy.
It really is. We are desperate for connection. We are lonely. That's the cold. But people have quills. Bad habits, egos, selfishness, annoying voices, political opinions.
The closer we get to people, the more they hurt us. So what's the solution? How did the porcupines survive?
They find a moderate distance. Schopenhauer calls this politeness and manners. He says politeness is the buffer that allows us to get a little bit of warmth without getting stabbed. We agree to pretend we like each other just enough to not freeze.
But he also says some porcupines don't need to huddle at all.
Ah, yes. The man of internal warmth. He argues that if you are intelligent enough, if you have a rich inner life, if you have books and thoughts, you have your own internal heat. You don't need society. You can stay out in the cold alone and not get pricked.
That sounds suspiciously like Schopenhauer justifying his own loneliness. Like, I'm not lonely, I just have internal warmth.
Oh, 100%. He valued solitude above almost anything else. He believed that society is basically a masquerade ball.
The persona.
Yes. He says everyone is wearing a mask. And the biggest mistake you can make is assuming the mask is the real person. He says we should treat social interactions like a comedy. Don't take it seriously.
He who knows the world finds society insipid. He who is a blockhead feels right at home in it.
That's his view.
Yeah.
He distinguishes between hatred and contempt in a way that I actually found really useful.
It's a chilling distinction. He says hatred is emotional. It comes from the heart. It means you actually care about the person enough to hate them. It requires energy.
But contempt is intellectual. It comes from the head.
It's objective.
It's looking at someone and mathematically calculating that they are of zero value. He advises that true contempt should be completely silent. If you show it, you make an enemy. If you hide it, you protect yourself.
It's very Machiavellian. He basically says, don't get angry at the fool. Just note that he is a fool and walk away.
Speaking of things he held in contempt, we have to talk about noise.
I laughed out loud reading this section because he is so specifically furious about one sound.
The cracking of whips.
Not loud music, not people shouting. The carters cracking their whips in the street outside his window.
He writes an entire essay basically screaming, "Stop that noise." He calls it the assassin of thought.
Why was he so sensitive to this? It seems like a minor annoyance.
To him, it was existential. He argues that a great mind is like a large diamond. It's valuable because it is one whole unified thing. But noise, sudden sharp noise like a whip, shatters the concentration. It breaks the diamond into pieces.
And then it's worthless.
Exactly. He believes that your tolerance for noise is inversely proportional to your intelligence.
Wow.
If you are stupid, noise doesn't bother you because you aren't thinking about anything important anyway. Your thoughts are like a pile of bricks. You can knock them over and just stack them up again.
But if you are a genius building a complex cathedral of thought, noise is a violation.
It destroys the structure. It is the physical laborer asserting dominance over the intellectual laborer.
I am absolutely going to use assassin of thought next time a motorcycle drives by my house.
It's a great phrase. And in our modern world of notifications, ringtones, and open plan offices, I think his hatred of interruption is more relevant than ever.
Let's move to part 5, education. This was a shorter section in the source material, but I found it really relevant to how we raise kids today. Schopenhauer thinks we are doing it all backward.
He distinguishes between natural and artificial education. His main gripe is that we teach children general ideas, concepts, words, theories, before they have actually seen the real world.
We give them the Canadier before they have the stuff to put in it.
Right. We teach a child the word horse and explain it in a book before they have ever seen a horse or smelled a stable. We teach them about justice before they've experienced a playground dispute.
He says this creates a distorted worldview.
The child tries to force reality to fit into the box they learned in school, but reality is messy.
He wants us to stick to the senses.
He says until age 15, education should be almost entirely observation. Take them to nature. Show them physics in action. Let them verify things with their eyes. Don't teach them philosophy or complex social theories. They aren't ready.
And he really, really hates novels.
He despises novels for young people.
Why? Is it just snobbery?
It's more about the distortion of reality. He argues that novels lie. A novel presents a structured life. There is a plot. There is poetic justice. The good guy wins, the bad guy loses. Love is eternal. Conflicts are resolved in Act 3.
Schopenhauer says this implants false expectations. It's the Disney princess problem.
Or the Instagram problem today. A young person reads a romance novel or sees a perfect life online, goes out into the real world expecting it to be like the story, and gets crushed by reality.
He calls novels a will-o'-the-wisp, a ghost light that leads you into the swamp. He wants us to read the original text life itself, not the copy.
Exactly.
Okay. We have arrived at part 6, the minefield. This is the section of Studies in Pessimism simply titled On Women.
Yes. And we need to reiterate for you listening, we are reporting the source material here. Schopenhauer's views are infamous. They are misogynistic by any modern standard, and frankly, by the standards of many of his contemporaries.
But they are a crucial part of his pessimistic machinery, and we can't understand the text without addressing them.
Right. He doesn't hold back. He refers to women as the number 2 of the human race.
He views women as an intermediate stage between a child and a man. He argues that biologically, women are designed for one thing, the propagation of the species.
And because of this, he claims they live entirely in the present.
He sees that as a weakness.
He sees it as a limitation of the intellect. He argues that because their reasoning faculty is weaker, his words, they are less troubled by the future and the past.
He admits this makes them more cheerful and better nurses because they can bear with the tediousness of a sick room better than men, but he insists it makes them incapable of true objectivity.
This brings up his aesthetic critique.
Right. He claims women can't actually appreciate art.
It's harsh. He claims that when women show interest in art, poetry, or music, it is merely coquetry. It's a simulation, a peacock feather.
He argues they are using it to capture a man's attention.
He says a woman is incapable of looking at something purely for what it is. She only sees how it relates to her or her feelings. He claims they have no sense of justice because justice requires abstract thinking, and he believes women rely on cunning instead.
And he ties this back to nature, giving them weapons.
This is the biological determinism again. He says nature gave lions teeth and bull's horns to survive. To women, the weaker sex in his view, nature gave the power of dissimulation.
Lying.
Deception.
Charm. Cunning. He argues that women use beauty and charm for a few brief years of youth solely to trap a man into providing for them for the rest of their lives.
He sees it as a biological trick, the will to live using women to ensure the next generation is born.
It's incredibly transactional, and that leads to his critique of marriage. He hates monogamy, but not for the reasons you'd hear today. No, he thought monogamy was unnatural because it forced men, who he believed were naturally polygamous, into a restrictive contract.
He blamed the Teutonico-Christian tradition for this. He basically thought that asking a man to be faithful to one woman for life was like asking a river to stop flowing.
He thought it was bad for women too, though.
In a twisted way, yes. He argued that monogamy creates a class of old maids, women who don't find a husband, and thus, in his view, lose their purpose. And it necessitates prostitution.
He calls prostitutes human sacrifices on the altar of monogamy.
That is the quote. He sees them as the waste product of a system that demands one man for one woman. He actually preferred the ancient or Eastern models where men had multiple wives, arguing it was more honest to human nature and took care of all women, rather than elevating a few ladies to a pedestal and leaving the rest in the gutter.
He had a deep disdain for the European lady who demands respect and chivalry.
It's a very bleak view of love. He sees it all as just biological maneuvering. To Schopenhauer, love is just the will putting a blindfold on you so you'll reproduce. The romance is the bait.
Once the child is conceived, the illusion drops, and you are stuck with the quills of the other person.
Right back to the porcupines.
So we have a world that is a penal colony. We have happiness that is fake. We have intellect that hurts us. We have social lives that prick us. And we have relationships that are biological traps. This is heavy stuff.
It is the deepest dive we've ever done in terms of darkness.
But, and here's the outro, the light at the end of the tunnel, Schopenhauer actually offers a solution. It's not cheer up, it's change your greeting.
It goes back to the penal colony idea. If you walk around thinking the world is a luxury hotel, you are going to be constantly angry at the bad service.
You'll be mad at the rude guests. You'll be furious that the AC is broken. You will be in a state of constant indignation.
But if you know it's a prison, if you know everyone around you is also serving a life sentence, if you know they are also swinging between need and boredom, also being chased by the butcher, also trapped by the will,
and you stop judging them.
You feel pity. You feel tolerance. Schopenhauer suggests that instead of greeting each other with sir or madam, we should use the salutation, my fellow sufferer.
Socii malorum.
Exactly. Hello, my fellow sufferer. It completely changes the dynamic. It acknowledges that we are all in the same sinking ship. And from that shared suffering comes the only genuine morality Schopenhauer recognizes. Compassion. We are all united in pain.
So the takeaway from the grandfather of pessimism isn't give up. It's lower your expectations.
Lower them all the way to the floor. And then every time you have a good meal or a sunny day or a nice conversation, it's a bonus. It's a pleasant surprise in a penal colony.
And he leaves us with one final kind of mind-bending thought about the will. I want you to think about this as you go about your day.
He asks us to consider this. If the will to live is the cause of all this suffering, and that will is the same energy in all of us, are we not, in the end, just one single entity? One giant cosmic hunger tormenting itself in a billion different forms.
So when I cut you off in traffic, I'm basically cutting myself off.
You are the animal eating and the animal being eaten. You are the tormentor and the tormented. We are one thing hurting itself.
It's a thought that might keep you up at night, but it might also make you a little kinder to the person standing next to you in line.
Definitely.
Well, on that cheerful note, that is it for this deep dive into Schopenhauer. Thanks for suffering through it with us.
Until next time, fellow sufferers.